Hello guys, welcome to Dr. Science. So today we are going to talk about catecholamine synthesis, which is taken from your Harper's Biochemistry in chapter number 41, page number 509. And I am sorry since I didn't upload many videos since the past 3 or 4 weeks, since I was having a lot of fever and I am not feeling well now also. So please listen this video in high volume because my voice is kind of low, and I hope you will understand. I also have sore throat also, so please bear with me. So initially, in order to understand this, we will start with the basics of catecholamine synthesis. So first we will talk about the basics of catecholamine synthesis. In order to understand this, we will draw the structure of a benzene ring. So this is a benzene ring, and this benzene ring is going to have 6 carbons. This is carbon number 1, carbon number 2, carbon number 3, carbon number 4, carbon number 5, and finally the carbon number 6. To this carbon there are hydrogens. Hydrogen H1, H2, H3, H4, H5 and H6. So this is the structure of a benzene ring, and the chemical formula of benzene ring is C6H6. Okay, I hope you are clear with this. Next we will talk about what is meant by a catechol ring. Catechol ring is nothing but benzene ring together with hydroxylation at carbon number 3 and carbon number 4. Now what is meant by this? So once again we are going to draw the structure of benzene ring. So this is the benzene ring, and to this benzene ring there were hydroxylation at carbon number 3 and carbon number 4. Now this entire structure is called as your catechol ring. Okay, now not only that, we have to understand how the catecholamines are synthesized. So I will draw the structure of a complete catecholamine. So this is the benzene ring, and there were hydroxylations at carbon number 3 and carbon number 4. And not only that, to this benzene ring there are ethyl chains attached. So this is the ethyl chain, and finally we have the amino group. So this entire structure is nothing but, as you can see here, this is a catechol ring, and this one is your ethyl chain, and finally we have the amine. So in complete we can see the structure of the catecholamine. So this is nothing but your catecholamine. Okay, so it have a catechol ring together with ethyl chain and an amine group. That is called as your catecholamine. So before going into the synthesis of catecholamine, we have to understand what are meant by monoamines or bioactive amines. So what is meant by monoamine derivatives or the bioactive amines? The answer is very simple. So any hormone derived from a single amino acid are called as your monoamines or your bioactive amines. So what is meant by this? For example, tyrosine is an amino acid, and this tyrosine can synthesize three hormones such as your epinephrine, which is known as your adrenaline, norepinephrine, which is known as your noradrenaline, and finally the dopamine. So tyrosine is a single amino acid. Okay, from this single amino acid we can synthesize nearly three hormones. So these hormones are called as your monoamine derivatives, since they are synthesized from a single amino acid. Okay. Now, what are the other examples of such monoamines or the bioactive amines? The other examples include histidine. From histidine, we can synthesize histamine, and the other one is your tryptophan. From tryptophan, we can synthesize 5-hydroxytryptamine or serotonin. So from tyrosine, histidine and tryptophan amino acid, we can synthesize nearly all these hormones, which are your monoamines or the bioactive amines. Now we are going to see the synthesis of catecholamines. Okay, so imagine this is the gastrointestinal tract, this is the esophagus, this is the stomach, and you have eaten a protein diet. Whenever you eat a lot of protein diet, from the protein we will derive an amino acid called as your phenylalanine. So as you can see here, phenylalanine is an amino acid which is derived from your gastrointestinal tract. Now we are going to synthesize the catecholamines from this phenylalanine. So we have to understand the structure of the phenylalanine. So as you can see here, phenylalanine will have a benzene ring, but it will not have any hydroxylation. Okay, since there are no hydroxylation, it is not called as it cannot be called as your catechol, because catecholamine should have hydroxylations at carbon number 3 or carbon number 4. Okay, since phenylalanine is not going to have any hydroxylations at carbon number 3 or carbon number 4, it is not considered as a catecholamine. Okay, it will have a simple benzene ring together with ethyl chains CH2CH COOH, and finally it will have a amine group. Okay, so this is the basic structure of phenylalanine: a benzene ring with ethyl chain and an amine group. Now we are going to convert this phenylalanine into a substance called as your tyrosine. So phenylalanine is going to get converted into a substance called as your tyrosine. Now what is the structure of tyrosine? So once again, there is a benzene ring, and similarly it will have ethyl chains CH2 CH COOH, and to this ethyl chain we have the amine group. Okay, now the only difference here is that at carbon number 4, as you can see here, there will be a hydroxylation present. Okay, in tyrosine there will be a a hydroxylation at carbon number 4. Now what is the enzyme that is going to convert the phenylalanine into tyrosine? The enzyme which is converting the phenylalanine into tyrosine is called as your phenylalanine hydroxylase. Okay, so phenylalanine hydroxylase will do hydroxylation at carbon number 4. Okay, once again, phenylalanine was converted into tyrosine by the enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase, which was doing hydroxylation at carbon number 4. I hope you are clear with this. Now other important thing that you have to notice is that deficiency of phenylalanine hydroxylase will cause a disease called as your phenylketonuria. Okay, please remember this. Now eventually, so this is the structure of the tyrosine. Now eventually this tyrosine is will get converted into a compound called as your dopa. Now what is the structure of dopa? Once again we are going to draw the benzene structure. So this is a benzene. To this benzene we have the ethyl chain CH2 CH COOH, and finally we have the amine group. Okay, so for tyrosine we were having hydroxylation at carbon number 4, right? For dopa there will be also a hydroxylation at carbon number 3. Okay, so what is the enzyme that is converting tyrosine into dopa? The enzyme responsible here is your tyrosine hydroxylase, which was doing hydroxylation at carbon number 3. Okay, and this tyrosine hydroxylase is the rate limiting step of the catecholamine synthesis. So please remember this one, this is very important. Initially there was hydroxylation at carbon number 4. Now there is carboxylation at carbon number let me draw this clearly, at carbon number 4 and carbon number 3. Okay, the other name for dopa is dihydroxy. Since there are two hydroxylation at carbon number 3 and carbon number 4, it is called as your dihydroxy phenylalanine. Why it is called as phenylalanine? Because as you can see here, the structure is similar to phenylalanine. Okay, and there are two hydroxylation at carbon number 3 and carbon number 4, hence dihydroxy phenylalanine is the other name for dopa. Okay, so eventually this dopa will get converted into a substance called as your dopamine. Okay, now what is the structure what is the structure of this dopamine compound? So once again, here is the benzene ring. Let's draw this a little bit big. So here is the benzene ring. Here are our ethyl chain CH2 CH COOH, and finally the amine group. And dopa was having hydroxylation at carbon number 3 and carbon number 4. Now the important thing is that whenever dopa as you can see here, dopa is converted into dopamine. During this step, carbon dioxide is kicked out from the reaction. Hence, the enzyme here is called as your dopa decarboxylase. The enzyme responsible of converting dopa into dopamine is dopa decarboxylase, because at this step the carbon dioxide is getting kicked from the synthesis. Okay, so as you can see here, we are going to cut this COO because CO2, right? Hence we are going to remove this COO. So what is the structure of the dopamine? This is the benzene ring, which was having hydroxylation at carbon number 3 and carbon number 4, and this was the ethyl chain, right? So eventually this CH and this CH will fuse together and we will have CH2 ethyl chains, and finally the amine. So this is the structure of dopamine. Okay, now eventually this dopamine, I would like to say that this is the alpha carbon. Let me clear this one. This is the alpha carbon and this is the beta carbon. Okay, in the ethyl chain, one is an alpha carbon, the other one is your beta carbon of the dopamine. So eventually this dopamine will get converted into norepinephrine. Let's draw this with a different color. Eventually it will get converted into norepinephrine or noradrenaline by an enzyme. So this dopamine is getting converted into norepinephrine, and this step is regulated by an enzyme called as your beta hydroxylase. Okay, dopamine beta hydroxylase. Now why it is called as a beta hydroxylase? In order to understand this, we are going to draw the structure of the norepinephrine. So as you can see here, this is the benzene ring, and to this benzene ring we are having hydroxylation at carbon number 3, carbon number 4, and I said that we have ethyl chains, right? And finally we have the amine group. So this was considered, this one is your alpha carbon and this was considered the beta carbon. So for this beta carbon there will be a hydroxylation, hence it is called as, the enzyme is called as your beta hydroxylase, because it is going to do hydroxylation on the beta carbon of the ethyl chain, and dopamine is getting converted into norepinephrine, right? Hence the name dopamine beta hydroxylase. So this is the structure of the norepinephrine, and eventually this norepinephrine will get converted into epinephrine, and the enzyme responsible here is your phenyl ethanol amine transferase. Don't worry, I will draw the structure of norepinephrine first. So this is the benzene ring, and to this benzene ring we have the ethyl chains CH2, CH2, and finally the amine. We were having hydroxylations at carbon number 3, carbon number 4, and a hydroxylation at beta carbon. So this is the structure of norepinephrine. Norepinephrine, right? So the enzyme called as your phenyl ethanolamine methyl transferase will add a methyl group. I will draw this in red sketch. So here to the amine, as you can see, to the amine group there will be addition of a methyl group. Hence the name phenyl ethanolamine methyl transferase. Okay, so methyl is getting transferred to the amine group, and this norepinephrine is converted into epinephrine in the process by adding a methyl group to the amine. Okay, what was the enzyme here? Phenyl ethanolamine methyl transferase. I hope you are clear with this. Now I will do a small revision here. So what was the first step? It was phenyl alanine, which was derived from the gastrointestinal tract, and it was getting converted into tyrosine. And what is the enzyme responsible here? Phenyl alanine hydroxylase. And deficiency of this and what was the mechanism of this one? Phenyl alanine hydroxylase. It was doing hydroxylation at carbon number 4, and deficiency of this enzyme can lead to phenylketonuria. Eventually tyrosine is converted into dopa, and the enzyme responsible here is your tyrosine hydroxylase, right, which was doing hydroxylation at carbon number 3, and it is the rate limiting step. Finally dopa was converted into dopamine, and during this step there was decarboxylation, right? There was decarboxylation, hence the enzyme name is dopa decarboxylase. And eventually dopamine will converted into norepinephrine or noradrenaline by the enzyme dopamine beta hydroxylase, which was doing hydroxylation at beta carbon. And finally norepinephrine or adrenaline was getting converted into epinephrine by the enzyme phenyl ethanolamine methyl transferase, which was adding methyl group to the amine. Okay, so this was about the synthesis. Now we will just go to the diagram which is given in your biochemistry textbook. So as you can see here, the tyrosine is getting converted into dopa by an enzyme called as your tyrosine hydroxylase, which was adding hydroxylation at carbon number 3. Okay, eventually dopa decarboxylase will puff out the carbon dioxide from it. So as you can see here, this COOH will get converted into CH. Okay, and finally the dopamine will do hydroxylation of the beta carbon, hence the enzyme name is dopamine beta hydroxylase. And eventually the norepinephrine will get converted into epinephrine by phenyl ethanolamine methyl transferase, which will add methyl group to the amine. Okay, now before ending this topic, I would like to say something, that dopamine, norepinephrine or epinephrine, they can be inactivated by enzymes such as your monoamine oxidase. Okay, now what does the monoamine oxidase will do? So in order to understand this, I am going to draw the structure again. So this is the benzene ring, and here are your ethyl chains, CH2, CH2, and here is your amine. And once again there were hydroxylation at carbon number 3 and carbon number 4. Okay, so this monoamine oxidase will remove the amine. Hence, whenever this amine is removed from the catecholamines, they will not work properly. Okay, that's how you remember this. Monoamine oxidases can deactivate the catecholamines. Okay, thank you guys. That was about catecholamine synthesis.